And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. I do want to thank our friends at St. Ignatius Catholic School in Meridian. What a wonderful time it was to be there and to take part in promoting our school, securing our future. It is an amazing privilege to be at local schools. I do want to thank CapEd Credit Union, Team Mazda Subaru, and, of course, our new friends at Grade Power Learning in Meridian. Coming up, of course, we've got a few big events. We've got Miller's Mission, which will be just around the corner, where we're asking you to help us clothe and feed kids and women and children this spring, summer season. Many of us always think about the mission and other great nonprofits throughout the holiday season, but in the summer, as we get ready to take a break, take a vacation, maybe just stay at home, a staycation, if you will, we don't really think about charitable giving, right? So now is the time to think about that. We'll be living at the Walmart once again at Garrity and Franklin Boulevard in Nampa. Looking forward to seeing all our friends, not only in Canyon County, but Ada County as well. And we'll be there until Memorial Day. And we hope that you can help us help Treasure Valley families. That's issue one. Coming up in less than a week, we've got the Idaho primary. I know a lot of people are going to say, Kevin, I can't wait for these ads to get done. I can't wait for everything else to get done. I'm going to miss them. I'm going to miss the political insight. This has been one of the most contentious, competitive races that we've had in quite some time. And a lot of attention has been paid to the governor's race, and rightfully so. But on the other hand, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, you take a look at the 1st Congressional District, and apparently the newspaper has endorsed Luke Malik for Congress, which is interesting. You have a competitive race that really didn't get the coverage that it should have, and that's too bad on a lot of parts. But we'll see how that plays out. So May 15th, we will be covering the primary. We'll be there Tuesday night at the Riverside with all of our friends, and then a very special broadcast on May 17th. We will be at Terry's Cafe in Meridian, doing our very best to bring all sides together. And you're seeing and hearing a lot of folks calling in, a lot of folks upset with the commercials. And this is where the libs or the Democrats or wherever think that they have a chance, because they see this strife, this turmoil within the Republican Party. And they believe, and this has happened in other parts of the country, and maybe it's happened here before, where you have one group that will not support another group. Usually it's the grassroots and the establishment. Now, usually the establishment will say, hey, you need to support us for the good of the party. And the grassroots go along. Now, when it's the grassroots that win, sometimes you have the establishment folks sitting on their hands and saying, look, we're not going to support your candidate, and look who waltzes in, A.J. Belukoff. Now, we've reached out to Mr. Belukoff. We've had him on in the past. His people aren't what they were 4 years ago, I will say that, as far as his staff. Paulette Jordan, I wouldn't expect her to come on this program. She's more than welcome, but she's going to get stomped come Tuesday. She's a nice young lady, very articulate, very bright, has a incredible future, but I can't see A.J. Belukoff losing the Democratic Party. If A.J. Belukoff loses the Democratic primary, it's because a massive number of Bernie Sanders millennial folks and a good chunk of non-millennials are voting for this. See what I'm saying? So they're going to have a huge chunk of millennial folks jumping in and voting for Paulette Jordan. That's number one. Number two, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, you're having, again, the three factions. And whoever thought that the state Republican Party, as big as it is, could be broken down into three factions. It's very simple. You have, your traditional Republicans. You've got Brad Little doing what Brad Little does best, the agrarian business and ranching community, looking to do circa 2014 what Butch Otter did, where Butch Otter lost Kootenai, Canyon, Ada counties to Russ Fulcher, but had enough support in the hinterlands to win the primary. Okay. There you have it. You also have a very aggressive commercial that is getting a lot of buzz concerning Congressman Labrador and the comments that he made concerning Donald Trump. Now, those comments have been out there. On the other hand, what the ad isn't saying is that Congressman Labrador has been the most strident supporter of Donald Trump in the state of Idaho. And it's interesting that Donald Trump would be an issue here, considering that the state went for Ted Cruz and was lukewarm to the president even when he finally won. Okay, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So you have the Lieutenant Governor Brad Little strategy. Now you have the strategy of Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, who is going through every, and it's almost, I would say, very reminiscent of what Butch Otter did, except Dr. Ahlquist introducing himself to the public, going back and forth, going to all the counties, all the cities, posing with flags. It's a very traditional, yet very millennial focused. If you take a look at their social media, if you examine everything, then what happens next? You know, it's very focused for the people that get their news, not from the radio, not from the television, or that thing they used to call the newspaper. It's from social media. Very much, it's almost like a Facebook news report from the Dr. Ahlquist campaign. So you have the traditional approach along with the outreach to the business community and the people that liked Donald Trump because of the outsider status. Now, that might play well with everybody else, if you know what I'm saying. See what I'm saying here? What am I saying at 580-5436, 580-KID? Sorry, I've been stalling for John Meacham. We're going to try and get him on. We'll see what happens. But if not, it's just you and me. How these things happen on Fridays, right? So the Dr. Ahlquist strategy is, you know, synergy and the appeal to the millennial vote. Now, whether or not they vote in a Republican primary, we're going to find out Tuesday night. Congressman Labrador's strategy is tried and true, going back again and again and again and again to the base that won him support as a state representative, to the base that won him support, beating the unbeatable, doing the unthinkable, beating Minnick the Gimmick in 2010. Now we'll see how that plays out, and we'll find out together Tuesday night. I think it's fascinating who wins, who loses, and what direction the state goes. And depending on who wins the primary, what happens next when we're talking about the matchup between A.J. Belukov. Those are some of the stories going on statewide, and we'll get more of it. It's interesting, though, that the progressives in the paper have endorsed Luke Malek. A lot of people wondered why Representative Malek was running. I think he's run a strong campaign. But really, a northerner coming down to the south to win, I don't know if that's going to happen. But the paper endorsing him, other people endorsing him. In fact, I got some flyers on my door, which, again, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. So anybody that brings us something, we're like, ooh, look at this. But the idea that the paper endorsing him over Russ Fulcher, we'll get your thoughts on that as well. Phone numbers here. We've given them to you many, many times. We've talked enough. Let's find out some news stories. The president wants to talk about drug prices and the idea of what to do about drug prices and why they're going up. President Trump is expected to introduce his plan to lower drug prices today at the White House. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar appearing today on Fox and Friends. And remember, on Fox and Friends, when you're hearing Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
We want to free up our government programs to be able to negotiate the same kind of good deals that we get in commercial. We also have some parts of our government programs where we don't negotiate at all, and we want to use the private sector tools that we have in other parts of our program to negotiate discounts for those drugs to bring savings for the system down and savings for our senior citizens.
That would be nice. You were talking about cost controls and everything else. Of course, we've tried that before, and that didn't work. Let's start off with Bill and Fruitland with comments here at KIDO Talk Radio and Kevin Miller. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Kevin. Nice to listen to you every morning. I've enjoyed you for years.
Well, thank you, sir.
I have a quick question. Is the Dave Leroy the same David Leroy that I know from being a resident of Idaho all my life?
I would believe so, yes. He was lieutenant governor. He's run for office, served in a lot of administrations, yes.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad you cleared that up. that's where I'm going. But I enjoy your political views. I'm quite a conservative myself, and sometimes liberal Steve or whatever his name is, he gets a little out there, but it's kind of a good laugh to get me going in the morning.
Yeah, I'm glad, Bill, you get the spirit of that.
Yes, I do, and it's nice of you to be somewhat of a chameleon that way. But I enjoy it when you give him both barrels every now and then. You cock both hammers and just pull both triggers, and that's about it. But yes, keep up the good work, and I'm always over here pushing the same. I'm pretty certain the same basic philosophies. So you cleared that up with Leroy, and I thank you.
Bill, thank you. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too. 580-5436-580 KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here. As we move along, I love this. We're looking at lowering drug prices. Funny, President Obama never did that.
Dozens of initiatives. Smart, targeted, efficient, but still respecting innovation, still ensuring patients in America have access to the best therapies.
Right. Do you believe that you have access to the really best therapies when we're talking about this? See what I'm saying here? I mean, are we really looking at the best therapies when we go in? And as I've told you, you get a new insurance provider and all of a sudden they don't like your medication because it costs too much, even though they're making a pretty good profit off of the premium since you don't go to the doctor, right? Well, we can't have you on that medication. But my doctor said, well, your doctor doesn't know anything. We've got to keep costs down. Where is that in the Hippocratic Oath? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Well, before we nuked John Meacham on Twitter, apparently they're having trouble with the hotel line. Imagine that. Which does happen quite a bit, but we are searching continually to get John Meacham, Pulitzer Prize winner, on no bait and switch here on Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. So Luke Malik gets the endorsement from the Idaho Statesman. How wonderful for the Statesman here. Let's see, in the Republican primary for the 1st Congressional District, multiple candidates are vying for the out-Trump and out-Labrador, including candidates who have stronger records of working across the aisle than their extremist rhetoric suggests. Don't you just love a paper that says that they're for the community, and yet if you talk about real-life conservative issues, they call you an extremist? This shows you once again, and I understand why there's a ton of turnover at the leadership at the Idaho Statesman. And when you look at the Idaho Statesman, it's nothing but ads. I mean, who would ever want to pay to have an advertisement in a paper that you have to pay for, right? But I love this, that they're talking about Luke Malik, and that's great. But the idea of calling Republicans that are running extremist, it is troubling. In my opinion, they're not representing the community. They're representing their own ideological base. Let's see. And they're talking about they need someone to get along with Mike Simpson. The candidate who best understands this balance is Luke Malik. At 36, Malik has had time to develop congressional seniority and a philosophy and temperament suited to working with others whom he disagrees. David Leroy has a similar temperament, and that was blah, 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 blah. The experience Washington needs right now is a little gray hair, a lot of good judgment, and then it goes on and on. Only Malik in this race has been willing to criticize President Trump. And then they go on to smack Russ Fulcher. Again, there you have it with the Idaho Statesman breaking things down. 580-5436-580-KIDOs. We had an incident yesterday that got a lot of coverage. And how do you handle this situation? And props to the folks in Canyon County for making this happen. Props to the folks in the local area police departments that made this happen. You had an incident at a local school where some kids brought a BB gun at Valley View Middle School. You had an 8th grader and a 6th grader that brought a BB gun. And these things happen. But in the age of being overly cautious, overly careful, and who can blame authorities for that? You're not going to take a chance. But you had 2 boys are in custody. According to Canyon County officials, they brought a BB gun to school, which sparked a lockdown. Another student reported seeing the gun on the school bus. The sheriff's office was alerted. The call came in. The Caldwell Police Department, along with the Canyon County officials, responded. No one at Valley View Middle School was hurt. Officers found the BB gun and determined that there was no big threat. Now, some people will say this is much ado about nothing, but on the other hand, you've got to make sure that everyone is safe. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we'd be criticizing authorities for overreacting. Today, not so much. And it's unfortunate that the kids, and look, they're kids. They used poor judgment. That's what kids do. I'm sure there'll be some type of appropriate punishment for them, right? I'm sure, in fact, it will. And Sheriff Donahue commending the students for coming forward and saying, look, they've got a gun. Thankfully, the system worked. It just shows you how our society has changed. So perhaps these kids will get a suspension. Perhaps these kids will, get a stern talking to by their parents. Does anything else need to happen? Probably not. And now the idea of pressing criminal charges against them. They don't know whether that's going to happen. I don't think that should happen. We'll get your thoughts on that in a minute. 6:25, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Traffic and weather together.
Valley View School District spokesman tells me that an 8th grader and a 6th grader at Valley View Middle School were taken into custody this morning by Caldwell police after they brought a BB gun to school. And police believe that one student brought the BB gun with them on the bus to school and then handed it off to another student on school grounds. And Valley View Middle School, located off of 10th and Karcher in Caldwell, went into a lockdown at 8:23 this morning after school administrators got a report that a student had a gun with them on the bus. At that point, they didn't know it was a BB gun or a real gun. A short time later, Caldwell police responded and took the 2 middle school boys into custody. It is unclear right now whether the 2 students will face any criminal charges. Because they are minors, their names have not yet been released. And the Valley View School District says that nobody was injured this morning, and they assure all parents that the middle school is all clear.
Caldwell Police Department has established Valley View Middle School as a safe learning environment, and they have returned to their regularly scheduled classes, and everybody is safe. There's no threat at this time. Nobody has been injured, and it's a completely safe environment.
To be very clear, no specific threat was made against students or the school. And again, there's no information yet on possible charges for the 2 students. But again, Tammy, we did learn this morning that 2 students were taken into custody at the middle school after bringing a BB gun with them on school grounds.
Thank you, Joe Parrish of Channel 7. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. I don't think that there should be charges against these kids. Again, a simple mistake. And remember, people do make mistakes. Well, Kevin, what if it had been a real gun? Well, that would have been different. And it shows you that the folks at Valley View, the bus driver, the principal, they were all on the same page. What have we seen when it's come to these terrorist situations? Is it 580-5436-580-KIDO? Is people ignore the warning signs. Or when it comes to domestic violence, people ignore the warning signs. People just sit back and go, well, it's no big deal. Gus is just blowing off steam. No, Gus is not blowing off steam. But kids are kids, and they make goofy mistakes. That's one topic. Obviously, the primary and the election is another topic that we would love to get you. Come on, sleepyheads. Time to get up and start the day. And then the idea of drug prices. Now, people are going to say the government shouldn't be involved in drug prices. Well, every time the government gets involved, prices seem to go up. Case in point, healthcare. But shouldn't somebody be doing something? Just like with gas prices, right? Just like with gas prices, when you're looking at the high cost of fuel. And it's been a while. You know, we've asked all the folks running for Congress, running for governor, what to do about the high cost of gas. I mean, in some places, it's up to $3.20, $3.25. And, you know, whether we incentivize private business, Whether the government gets involved, I don't see a downside to making us less dependent on the refinery in Salt Lake. I don't see a downside to figuring out a challenge that would really, a relief to a question that would really impact the lives of Idahoans in a nonpartisan sort of way. Kind of like the repeal of the grocery tax, right? The repeal of the grocery tax. Boom. You're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you don't like spending any more money than you have to on your food or your gas. Real life, real solution. So we'll talk about that. Plus, a White House official is in hot water over a remark concerning John McCain. We'll explain next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Do want to remind you, we look forward to seeing you at Terry's Cafe in Meridian. And that'll be Thursday from 5 to 9. We invite everyone who has run for office, win, lose, or draw, to join us. This is a unity rally bringing folks together, whether you're our friend Alex Gallegos, a noted battalion commander and veteran who is running for Congress, or Michael Snyder, or Russ Fulcher, or Dr. Alquist, or Congressman Labrador, or Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, or Harley Brown. You're all welcome to join us at Terry's Cafe in Meridian, Idaho, next Thursday, actually this Thursday, for our Unity Rally. Then we'll go to the State House steps, and we'll introduce Jonathan Parker, the head of the Republican Party, and bringing everyone together. Because that's what we do here at KIDO Talk Radio, just like our friend Jeff Manasso, who joins us now to talk about a lot of things. And before that, what do you make of Nashville possibly being the front runner to host the NFL draft?
I think it makes sense. It was here in Chicago for a while, and just the location they had, it just didn't really work. But I feel like Nashville is a little bit more wide open. It feels like it's a bit more American, and take that however you will, but it's just one of those towns that it's just, it's just, I think it fits right well.
I love that. It feels more American.
Well, it just, I don't know. It's got the history, and not the Chicago style history, but it's just got this kind of, I don't know. I think people listening, as I stumble over my words, probably know what I'm trying to say, but it just feels like it's kind of a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more. There'd be less people kneeling during the national anthem in Nashville. Let's put it that way.
The funny part is, do you put it on Broadway with all the bars and such, or do you put it in the stadium like they did with the Cowboys? So it shows you the NFL.
You have to go downtown. You've got to go there on Broadway, and there's some great venues and big enough to be able to host that thing.
That'll be something, of course. These are the dog days, Jeff Manasso, and we'll get to President Trump in a minute. But for people that love the football, it's May, June, July. Oof, the rough time.
Yeah, it's the rough time, and teams are working out their kinks. My squad's working out theirs, though we remain hopeful that we won't get banged up and injured before the first kickoff in August. So, we'll see. President Trump, by the way, brought up Bill Belichick last night in Indiana, and he. There were chants of, build the wall, lock her up, and even when Trump gave a shout to Bill Belichick, the crowd cheered, which was interesting because he leads the team that the Colts fans love to hate. So it was a pretty raucous rally in Elkhart last night, and President Trump does what he does best. He rallied his Hoosier base last night, taking to the stage at the school gym alongside Vice President Mike Pence, just 2 days after a brutal three-way Republican primary there. The president, not mincing any words, attacking Democratic Senator Joe Donnelly, calling him Sleepin' Joe. President touting. Well, he's got words. He's from New York, and he comes up with the terms. So this one's Sleepin' Joe, and he also touted GOP Senate nominee, businessman Mike Braun, to help him keep America great. He says that's the slogan for 2020. And he also touted promises made and promises kept: tax reform, the Supreme Court pick, slashing regulations, the Iran deal. He talked about paying nothing for 3 hostages from who came home from North Korea. Well, President Obama paid $1.8 billion for the release of some prisoners in Iran. He talked about the upcoming embassy opening in Jerusalem, and his ability to draw a crowd and energize his supporters. I mean, it's clear. So this thing, about 7,000 people could fit inside, but it was an overflow crowd outside. And that's what we saw on the campaign trail. While everybody was saying this guy doesn't have a shot, we were on the ground and watching this happen. It was not happening for anybody else. And so you knew something was happening. And his people, as he likes to say, tell him that this is what he needs to keep doing. Get out there, be with your base, and rally him up ahead of not only the midterms, but 2020.
Indeed. Jeff Monosso joining us here at KIDO Talk Radio. Jeff, anything else that we should be looking out for? It's always big when the president comes to town.
Well, I'm not sure. We'll see what he told us that there's some big news coming in the coming weeks as it pertains to health care. So I'd be interested to find out what they've got coming up. But it was a busy week for the president, and these upcoming weeks ahead of his meeting with Kim Jong-un, that's something really to look for. I think that's going to be very interesting if he can pull this off.
Jeff Monosso, watch out for that Danica Patrick.
Will do.
Take care, sir. Thank you. Our great friend Jeff Monosso. He didn't really get that reference to Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, Kevin Miller in the morning here. And you're like, Kevin Miller, we don't get a lot of your references. Well, we appreciate that. By the way, if you missed it, here's the president from his trip to Indiana yesterday.
America is being respected again.
There we have it. Let's go to the phones, and we go to Hank in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning. I'll comment briefly on that ad before I go to the Statesman that I commented yesterday about, and that was the ad that Labrador didn't support Trump and all this and that. And of course, they take out of context that these are statements made before the nomination, and also Brad Little sat on his hands after the nomination, where Labrador went out and campaigned with Trump's son and family in Utah and several other areas, which I didn't see Brad Little doing.
Say what you want about Congressman Labrador. When it appeared that it was lost or what have you, he was there with the Trump people. And you care if we have a conversation about this, Hank?
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else.
Well, no, this is what I was going to say to you, and I want to get your thoughts,
okay,
as well as others here at 580-5436, KIDO Talk Radio. Look, I believe, and I got into a disagreement with someone here at work that said, well, people should be on the Waylon Jennings station, or they should be on the Barry Manilow station for this thing. And I go, the people that vote in the primary are the reddest of the red, the smartest of the smart, and I don't think that ad is going to be effective to people that vote in the primary. Now, there could be 100,000 new people that are Republicans that are coming in from other states. That might impact them, but I don't see that ad being that effective. I think it's, cheering for no side in this. I think it's a brilliant move on their part to put that out there. Because it muddies the water, and I'm thinking if this ad is so effective, they should have done it a month or two ago, because those sound bites have been there. But I think that people that vote in the Republican primary in Idaho, they know the game. They're the hardcore of the political operatives. Back to you, Hank.
Okay. I might point out that if you go back to 1960, give you another historical analogy, the Ralph Harding-Hamer Budge race. Hamer Budge was a congressman that served for 5 terms in the 1950s. In 1960, Ralph Harding ran a last-minute ad saying that Hamer Budge was not taking his daughter Barbara to primary school, which is the Mormon classes they have after school. And that ad hurt Budge in 1960. In fact, Harding was able to upset him and win a couple terms in the House. So these ads occasionally do work in circumstances. Now,
look, I could go back to 1988 when George Bush, thanks to John Sununu, who became his chief of staff, launched a negative ad against Bob Dole, who was winning the New Hampshire primary. It would have been President Dole, and Bush destroyed him. I just believe the people here, they know the folks. At this time, if you're a little guy, you're a little guy. If you're a Labrador guy, you're a Labrador guy. And if you're an Alquist guy, I believe that the decisions have been made. It might sway 2 or 3%, but not much. That could be the race, though.
Well, I think it could possibly be. It could be possibly that close. I can't say for certainty what the margins are. My feel for the race is that Labrador is going to win by about 4 or 5 points, but it's close enough that it could affect the election. And now, my other point about the Statesman, before I get off the phone real quick, that paper was originally a staunch Republican paper from the beginning. When it was owned by John Reynolds, who was the founder in 1863, and then Milton Kelly, who took over the paper, and then between Calvin Cobb and his daughter, who controlled the paper for 70 years from 1889 to 1959, these were the glory days of the Statesman. This paper was the biggest thing in the state of Idaho. And look how the Liberals have run that paper down, where it's hardly a single, only 2 or 3 sheets of paper. The paper doesn't even have its own printing press anymore. Now, I know technology is a factor in this, but I think a lot of it has to do with their biased reporting, the fact that it's poorly, and since the Liberals taken over, it's been poorly written. If you go back to microfilms like I have and read the Statesman in its glory days, it was a well-written paper. You may not have agreed with its Republican politics.
I remember being, hearing about the Idaho Statesman when I lived across the country. It was held in high esteem. It was one of those small emerging papers that really did a lot. Today, when you call someone an extremist because they disagree with you, wow.
Well, that's typical. I mean, I remember the John Corlett, and when the chains took over after Mary Cobb Asheye died in 1959, and first federal publications took over the paper, and then later Gannett, and Gannett and other chains took over the paper. This is where you got it. I remember the John Corlett advertised saying any opponent of Cecil Andrus was an extremist, or Governor Don Samuelson was an extremist. I mean, I read those editorials and comments of the Statesman through the 50s and 70s and 80s. It's nothing new for the paper. That's the thing. And all through those years, the Statesman's circulation and influence has slowly declined.
Hank, thank you for the call. Let's go to Gary in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, thank you very much for taking my call. And I wanted to thank you for all that you are doing and have done. That last call kind of leads into what I was just thinking about. I've been here 40 years, and I think that Statesman used to be a very good paper. I think that has gone kind of downhill from there over the years. But, this endorsement by the paper to Malik, I'm not sure if that's a great endorsement by the liberal paper. I mean, remember in 2016, they endorsed Hillary Clinton, so that doesn't say an awful lot. I would kind of run away from that. But, one of the things also I wanted to call about is that, yesterday I remember Tea Party Bob called in. He was a little bit, I guess he was ranting a little bit about
Hold on. Wait a minute, Gary. A little bit?
Well, maybe a lot. About the attacks on these
sure.
on the campaigns. And he said that Michael Snyder was doing attack ads. And I when I heard that, I'm thinking, Michael's not attacking anybody. And so I was listening to I listened to that ad that was running this morning that you had on of Michael. And I guess if politicians are trying to make promises and go to Washington and not doing what they're supposed to do, I guess if you call that an attack ad, I guess this must be striking pretty close to home with Tea Party Bob. But I don't see how Michael Snyder had been attacking anybody in his ad. But
So you're calling out Tea Party Bob?
yeah, I guess I am, because he said yesterday that Michael's making attack ads, and if you listen to Michael's ad, I want to find out who is he attacking. He's attacking politicians, but he didn't attack anybody in that ad that he's running. And Tea Party Bob said he is. So again, I think that things are ringing pretty close to home with Tea Party Bob when Michael's stepping out and saying that politicians are basically promising what they're going to do when they go to Washington, and they tell us that, and then they get there and they basically are breaking their promises to us, the people in Idaho. And I guess I can't understand why politicians allow themselves to go ahead and get into a position where they take all this money from special interests, and then they try to deny it, and then they try to sidestep that, and then, of course, they're going to go to Washington, so their interests are going to be with those who own them, who have bought them. I don't think people in Idaho want that. I don't want that. I mean, the thing is, and also Tea Party Bob said that Michael is not a seasoned politician. That's exactly what I want. I don't want a politician.
Great point, Gary. So what are we going to do here? Okay. You're listening to Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio.